just be able to present and introduce you if you have not gone into any of the information that Chiraya has shared in her workshops and her meditations and activations, clearings that she does. So you're going to get to experience that right now. Chiraya and I have been working together since 2012. And a little bit about her, reading from her bio. Chiraya Dharma is an author, clairvoyant, clairaudient, clairsentient guide, and energy healer in service to the awakening of humanity. Having experienced profound awakenings at an early age, Chiraya has prepared herself for this time of service as an orator and scribe for the divine creator within us all. Her call is to ensure each and every being on earth has the opportunity to awaken to the truth of ourselves as one with love. In love with the law and divine principle, Chiraya brings profound clarity to our comprehension of the creative process and a perspective that takes us all way back before the beginning of time, helping us resolve our greatest esoteric perplexities as we usher in a new era of co-creative potential on earth. She's the author of Love's Whisperings, Authentic Spiritual Development with the Star Elders, and Unlocked and Unleashed the God Within You. Chiraya expects to release the next 3 books. This is an old bio, so I'll skip that part because it says 2016. She is the founder of Pure Living Expo, New Earth Vision Portal, and the Anchor of the Dream. She leads workshops and gives talks around the country and resides kind of everywhere at this point. So welcome, Chiraya. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Neil. And thank you, Michelle. I'm going to get started with a little presentation here. Today, we're going to be talking about the yin side of ascension. So we're, if we think of ascension as an orchestration, if you will, that each of us chooses into, we are in the middle of that massive orchestration, and therefore in the middle of a great awakening and huge potential. So let's get started here. The yin side of ascension. It just started occurring to me that we were dealing with more than one style and more than one flavor of what is going on the planet. And in other words, like, are we going to emerge from denial, learn to see in the dark, and alchemize negative emotion as part of our larger ascension process? So just first off, let's talk about the yang side of ascension, what I'm calling the yang side of ascension. So the yang side of ascension is where we are fully in the light, where we are opening our heart to joy, where we are feeling the divine creator within and showering the planet with pure love and illumination. It's where we are using the power of our consciousness on purpose to manifest what we desire, and knowing that that's who we are and that we can do that. It's learning those skills to bring things forth in the light of day. And all those are extremely important aspects of our ascension process. Knowing who we are, knowing how we create, comprehending that consciousness drives reality, comprehending that we are an important part of that consciousness. We are aspects of it. We are extensions of the creator in form, and therefore we are able to bring forth realities through the power of our consciousness. So these are all the things that I'm calling the yang side of ascension. Very much in the light, the sun, the bright parts. What some of us have been trained to do is to avoid the yin part of ascension, and maybe even think it's scary or even unnecessary. And I'm saying to us today that we need our yin side too. The dark is not bad, all bad. You could say that there's a positive and negative aspect to the light and the dark in this very strange duality show that we have going here. But the yin, the cold, the dark, the damp, this is where we can learn to emerge from denial. This is where we can learn to see in the dark. And this is where we can learn to alchemize negative emotion. Now, there's a difference between wallowing in the negative and embracing what is. So that's what we're going to get into. We're going to be learning how to dance this dance of embracing what is without sucking ourselves into a negative vortex from which we cannot emerge. Like, that's not the idea, but that can happen. That can happen. So we want to be able to pull ourselves up out of that. So learning the Yin Side of Ascension will also help us pull ourselves up out of any plummeting depths that have got us down. So let's talk about emerging from denial a little bit first. If we don't know, if we're not aware of things going on in our world or in our lives, or even in our own subconscious mind, this may be called denial. Okay, especially if we're not willing to look at it. Like if it's there, but we don't want it to be there, and so we pretend it's not. And there is a positive aspect to that. Denial can be, I see that that's there, and I'm going to fully focus my attention over here on what I want instead. You're not denying the fact that that thing has existed, but you're willingly shifting your focus to create and focus on what you want. That's different from just be like, no, I don't want to see that. I don't want to hear that. I'm not listening to you. Don't tell me that's real. Anybody hear any of that lately in your circles, or even for yourself? Like, are there things we haven't wanted to look at because they're very uncomfortable, right? So part of the process that I feel that we're in right now is coming out of denial. And we don't have to do anything, but in our willingness to look and see, we're going to also need to be okay with the discomfort that arises, that things are not all neat and tidy, like maybe we thought they were at one point, that the world is not exactly how it seems. And this may cause great discomfort. And yet the other part of coming out of denial is trusting that there's a way through. So we need to be willing to look at it, to look at the things that may be going on and begin to discern the truth of things and be okay with the discomfort of it, while also feeling that trust that, okay, I'm here for a reason. I know that I'm a conscious, beautiful being. I'm healing myself. I'm helping heal my world. There's got to be a way through this. So we need to have an open mind, basically, is what this is saying, and a fearlessness, or be willing to embrace the fears and face them, and also to embrace the unknown. It's a little disconcerting, isn't it, when you don't actually know, when you're starting to be presented with information that challenges your existing belief system. That can be very disconcerting, and it's not necessarily fun. But I'll tell you, it's part of our initiation right now. That's for sure. It's what we're in. We're in it. We're in it to win it, and we're in it deep. So basically, what we have to do is remove the wool to see the bull. We have to be willing to take the blinders off of our eyes, and instead of being sheeple, to actually look straight at the bull and be like, wow, you're a really big bull there staring me down. And I see you. I see the BS, and acknowledge it. Like, this is step one, coming out of denial. We have to take the wool off of our eyes. It's very logical. And, we need to learn to see in the dark. With information being presented as true, that same information being presented as false, and then other ideas, mixed ideas of part true, part false. These guys are saying something completely different. These guys are saying that that's absolutely wrong, and here's the proof. And then these guys have, it's confusing, right? It's confusing when you've got so many different streams of conflicting information. You might not know what's up, what's down. You've got to learn to see in the dark. This is part of our yin offering. This is part of our yin essence, to learn to leverage the power of our inner senses so we can navigate, and so we can keep our inner tether to our intuition and our source connection, and start to get to know our somatic knowing. And so let's take these one by one. Our intuition is that feeling, sense, and tone that we get to give us a guidepost, even if we're seeing one piece of information, but we're getting this little hint. It's like, wow, I wonder if that's really true. Now, our source connection can also help us corroborate that, and we can breathe and go within and be like, source, tell me about this. What do I need to know about this? Do I need to know anything? Do I need to put my attention on it at all? Is there a piece of information I need to come clear with so that I can navigate better in these times? Is what's being presented to me true? Or is there some falsehood here? Is there a mixed truth and falsehood going on? Why do I feel uncomfortable? Because in your somatic knowing, you may actually feel a little uncomfortable when presented with certain information, and like, that's just not resonating. But why? Because they're saying it's so true. And then, people are believing different things, and that's hard. So our intuition, our source connection, and the ability to feel what's happening in our body, which I'm calling our somatic knowing, is going to help guide us so that we can make sense of some of these discrepancies going on. And the tools that we want to use for this are the breath, most assuredly. And breathing, always going to connect us back to the body, back to the present moment, back to here we are. And then we can feel our feelings better when we're breathing. We're going to be wanting to listen to what's happening in our dreams, our dream time, bring that in, because there may be clues in there to guide us. And also remember the power of asking. Ask and you shall receive, as king, as queen. We're asking the source connection to tell us and to answer our question, our quest ion, our search particles. There's this thing called The Art of War by this guy named Sun Tzu. And so, some of us are only beginning to become aware that there's something called psychological warfare, and that sometimes there are beings who follow these protocols in order to steer consciousness where they want it to go, to fulfill their idea of how reality should be. And if we, a lot of us would not agree with that if it was up front and was presented to us of, here, we want you to behave this way, and we want you to do this, and we want humanity to be like that, and we want the earth plane to be like that, we'd be like, I don't think so. so they do it like the technique in that Sun Tzu is talking about is to do it surreptitiously and sneakily. And they say engage people with what they expect. It's what they're able to discern and confirms their projections. It settles them into predictable patterns of response, occupying their minds while you wait for the extraordinary moment, that which they cannot anticipate. So there are people who think very sneakily like this. A lot of us don't. We're so innocent. I mean, maybe even ignorant and innocent of these types of thinking. But I'm just here to say that we kind of got to start imagining there's more going on than meets the eye here. Are we in the middle of a mass initiation into next level discernment? I mean, could some of what's happening now that is so extreme that some of us are seeing, could that be an initiation for us to actually get our discernment cap squarely on our head and be like, questioning things, questioning reality? Like these guys that do like to play those other games that Sun Tzu is talking about. Like, what are they really up to? What are they going to do next? How is that going to affect me? How do I navigate? And then, we don't want to go too deep down that rabbit hole where we get wallowing again into fear, but we have to pull ourselves back to that source connection, that yang ability to create. But let's get our discernment caps on right now. This is super important. And so the other aspect of the Yin Side of Ascension is alchemizing negative emotion. And by this, I mean, we have to feel it to heal it. Instead of pushing away our emotions, making them wrong, we get to deal with them in a very direct way that allows them to transmute. And we do that by being present with what is, having unconditional love for our feelings, and allowing them to pass through our body, mind, spirit complex and dissolve. If you can imagine, if we've been being played with certain types of information on purpose, and then other people are presenting information to us that's incorrect, but they believe it strongly, and then some stuff is true, but we don't know how to distinguish between any of them, this whole scenario could create hard feelings for us. It could create sadness to think that we could be being played like that. In a personal relationship, it could happen as well, right? As well as on a collective mass scale. what are the emotions that are arising from being in the cauldron of this soup? We can be present with them instead of pushing them away or making them wrong. When we actually love our feelings unconditionally in a sacred setting, they will literally dissolve, and will come through that with a higher perspective, which is part of why that's helping us ascend, right? Because we're not pushed down by the negative emotion, we've digested them. And some of the tools for this are feeling safe to allow our feelings. So that means creating a safe container in which to do that work, staying in the body with the breath, and not letting our mind run the show when we're doing that work. To alchemize our emotions, we really need to keep bringing ourselves back into the body, mind, spirit complex. So these are some tools which we're going to work through very deeply on Tuesday in the post-conference workshop, which I hope, if you feel called, please do join me for that. And so, for example, part of what's going on either, on individual levels in our daily lives with certain individuals, some of us may have experienced this, and also maybe on a mass scale. Have you considered that maybe gaslighting is taking place on a mass scale? And what is gaslighting? It's a form of psychological manipulation using lying and deception to make someone question their own perception of reality and eventually their sanity. I mean, this is a real thing. Okay, it was talked about in The Taming of the Shrew, and the term came from a movie that was made in 1938 about somebody who was psychologically manipulating the key woman in the movie. And so sometimes people know they're doing it and sometimes they don't. But when we start breaking down what's happening on this kind of dark side of energy and how it could be affecting us, we come to face things like this and be like, oh, that's why I felt so strange in their presence. They were gaslighting me. Maybe they knew it, maybe they didn't. But again, this is sort of how we begin to be spiritual detectives and piece together what's actually going on in our world, and how we get to navigate through it and leverage even the kind of yucky stuff for our ascension, growing and emerging past an old paradigm into a new paradigm. We're ascending into a new perception of reality. We're ascending into a greater comprehension of ourselves as planetary stewards, a greater comprehension of ourselves as beings who can navigate reality and choose, and as our sovereign selves who have the right to say yes and no, and to embrace our no equally to our yes when something isn't correct for us, our planet, our world. So how does this yin side of ascension help us ascend? Well, knowing the truth is a very high vibration, if you think about it. And dealing with what is also a high vibration. Coming out of cognitive dissonance is also high vibration. So if you've got cognitive dissonance going on because of things that don't make sense and are conflicting, that's a down pressing vibration, isn't it? But so in order to get through the cognitive dissonance, we have to sort out what's correct, what's not correct, what's real, what's not real, and emerge from that. And as we emerge from that, we're going to be at a higher vibration, even though we were looking potentially at negative things in order to sort that out. Does that make sense? But it's going to lift us up and out by doing that spiritual detective work and being willing to see what's really going on and begin to discern. So this is a very key factor in what I'm calling the yin aspect of ascension, that I'm inviting those who feel called to embrace as a set of concepts for you to begin to play with. And so let's see how this might affect us in terms of literally our ascension process on a planetary scale. If you have, let's start in the bottom right corner. There's people who don't see, they don't want to see, and maybe they're reacting also. They believe strongly in how reality is being presented, and they're reacting against anyone who disagrees. And then you have those on the left bottom corner. They may be discerning some of the stuff that's going on and they're questioning reality, but they're still in reaction mode. So they're maybe aggressive and angry and causing conflict with others about what's right and what's wrong. And then up in the top third, you're saying don't see and don't respond, and don't see and respond. So maybe they still are buying a narrative and they really don't want to see another alternative, but they're still being kind to people. Like, that's a higher vibration, right? They're not causing conflict because they disagree with others and they don't believe that same reality, that alternative reality. And then there's those who are able to discern the difference between truth and fiction, the difference between what's being presented as real and what isn't real. And then they're still responding also. They're not reacting against people. They're not making others wrong. They're holding space. And this is perhaps, I guess, what I'm presenting here as for something for us to consider. This is the highest aspect right here available to us right now. And any of us may be in any one of these sectors at any given moment. It's not like it's cut and dry and someone is or isn't one of these things. Let's think of this as a process. There may be times when we're not seeing and reacting because some piece of information really rubs up against us and we don't want to believe that it could be false. And we might get, irritated at someone, or we might be in this higher plus quadrant where we're both seeing, wow, there's more going on than what meets the eye. And we're going to respond to hold space for all of humanity as we ascend beyond this stuff and start to get our ropes here, if you will. So I know this is a very short presentation. It was just like a sort of like a little tasty tidbit to get us thinking. Love to hear what you guys think about all these thoughts. And if you want to join me for more, we're actually going to do some clearing work and activation work on Tuesday at 1 o'clock Pacific. And I put it a little tiny URL here in case you're not watching this somewhere that the link is there. It's a tinyurl.com/ascend-truth. And Neil is also going to put that in the chat. Awesome. Okay, let's see. There we go. So thank you, Neil. Any questions or comments from anyone?
Thank you, Chiraya. And actually, we did kind of want, maybe can you do an activation, clearing, mass meditation kind of thing?
Sure. We have a couple more minutes.
Yeah, you have like 5 minutes.
Okay, absolutely. So thanks, Bridget. Thanks, everybody. I see a few things in the chat here. That's great. Okay, Rennie, Anita, wonderful. Yeah. So to me, this year has been a doozy. I don't know about you guys, but I'm like, woo! Like this got me to this realization where all of the stuff we've been learning about reality creation has a flip mirror side, and it's okay. And let's embrace that too. Like, we need to embrace this yin side. So I invite you, if you're not driving or what have you, take a nice deep breath, close your eyes if you want to, if you're not behind the wheel of something. And let's just allow that love from the heart to begin to penetrate into your body, mind, spirit complex. So if you imagine you have a spark of spirit deep within the center of your heart, and that beautiful spark of light is emerging to fill up your whole body, mind, spirit complex now. And we can ask our high self, the prime creator, source, God, whatever it is that you call God, whatever it is you call source, creator of all creators, being of all beings, light of all lights, love of all loves, we come to you together as one today, asking in our wisdom as kings and queens of your love, as sovereign beings, to be reconnected with the purest, most true and truthful and correct guidance available to us right now as we navigate these times. We ask that any discord or fear, any negative emotion, any sadness, grief, there's so much sadness and so much grief from what's transpiring in our world, creator, right now. Sometimes it's overwhelming for people. We're asking you to help us transmute these feelings back into love with as much grace and ease as possible. And we sit with the grace now, the grief here, the grace and the grief for a moment. And we just acknowledge all those who are grieving right now from things that are happening. They're very untoward on the planet at the moment. And we send our love and compassion to all those who are grieving. And we ask that the light at the end of the tunnel and that the prize of all this challenge be revealed to us as we move through it. as well, so that we can comprehend that you have for us right now, we are in the middle of a deep initiation. And that even though things feel hard and challenging, that this difficulty and this challenge is actually on one level, on your level. It's for us. It's for us to grow. It's for us to remove the blinders off of our eyes. It's for us to actually, even as we feel the pain of deception, we're also embracing the love of one another and you in our hearts even more, to transcend all of this, to transcend and to ascend beyond, to where we can truly step into our power as co-creators and say, this is what I choose out of love and not out of anger. If we are angry, creator, help us to transmute and alchemize and be okay and unconditionally love that anger, and yet help us move beyond it simply into our power as co-creators here on this beautiful planet, saying what it is that we choose to create, what it is that we're okay with, what is that's okay that's for us in our bodies, in our minds, in our spirits, on our planet. And that as we do that, we're like the Who in Whoville. We become like the Who in Whoville, singing, holding hands, even though the Grinch stole Christmas. Can we imagine ourselves being there? And in this group, we are so many of us, we're already so there. So creator, please help us through the gauntlet of all of this and help us retain that love even while we up-level our discernment and become spiritual detectives embracing the inside of ascension. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So be it. And so it is.
Thank you so much. We do have a question. Can you define briefly the yin versus the yang? What is the difference?
Yeah, I did go into that right at the beginning a little bit in depth, and so people could go back to that part of the recording. And basically what I'm calling the yang side is when our bright, sunshiny, joyful selves, the light, the vibrant light. And I'm in this essence, I'm seeing light and dark both as a positive aspect, right? So the positive aspect of the light, where we are shining and where we are manifesting reality on purpose, because that's what we're here to do. And we know who we are, and we're being very definite and forward directing and action oriented. And then the inside is where we're seeing in the dark, we're embracing discomfort, we're looking beyond, we're starting to peek behind the curtain to see who the man behind the curtain is, and going, oh my, the emperor has no clothes, those types of things. And so we will be able to get into that more on Tuesday at the activation and clearing session if people want to. So feel free to put them there.
Yeah, and I posted that in all the chats and YouTube and in the chat right there. And Chiraya, you know what's funny? You said Whoville.
Yeah.
This is where Whoville was filmed, my town. All the buildings on the top are Whoville buildings because they just filmed the above the building. So what a synchronicity. Yeah.
I absolutely love it. And I absolutely love that Dan is coming up after me. Wow, that's awesome. I can't wait. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Chiraya. That's a great overview of where we're going, where we've been, and what has to manifest in our human collective mind.